Welcome to Speak Up and Stay Alive RadiOh with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rullo. Finally, someone willing and able to blow the top off hidden healthcare and hospital dangers. She's provocative, upbeat, balanced, fearless, fresh. Pat has over 20 years of experience as a professional public speaker and knows how to approach this important subject with enough humor and wit to keep you informed, entertained, and empowered. Each week you will say, "Oh," as Pat explores and exposes little-known hospital hazards, delves into the deep waters of dangerous healthcare practices, picks the brains of her good-looking and influential guests to help keep you and your family safe in today's fragmented healthcare system. The program is not intended to replace medical advice from a licensed professional, but rather to encourage you to become a well-informed participant in your health and well-being. And now, your host, Pat Rullo.
Hello, I'm Pat Rullo, and I will be your hostess. And I am the hostess with the mostest. The mostest patient safety news that is important for you to know to help you and your loved ones stay safe during any doctor or hospital visit. Well, today we have a guest, a very well-known guest within the local political world, here to talk about smart meters and the bizarro world of Agenda 21, plus much more odds and ends that will cause you to say, "Really?"
Really?
So find your best radio seat, prop up your feet, turn off that darn radiation-emitting cell phone, and enjoy this next meaningful hour with us. And by the way, did you ever notice that this radio program is commercial-free? Yep, no random ads that have nothing to do with patient safety, just my gift to you.
Really?
So let's get started because right now it's time for the healthcare hazard of the week. A fractured fairy tale called URFO, the tale of the little lost sponge. Once upon a time, there was a little sponge named URFO, URFO, and I'll tell you how he got that strange name in a moment. URFO lived in the hospital with thousands of other clean little white sponge brothers and sisters. They lived a nice cottony life, all lined up and accounted for, just waiting to help out during the next surgery. One day, a man was rushed into the operating room. Mr. Patient. We'll call him Mr. P. Mr. P was in a car accident and the steering wheel jammed into his abdomen. The surgery required many surgical tools and instruments and, of course, lots of sponges. URFO and his siblings were so happy to help out. After hours of surgery and in preparing to close the surgical site, those in charge of keeping track of all the little sponges counted and recounted them. And once happy that everyone was accounted for, the doctor closed up the wound and eventually sent Mr. P home to recuperate. But wait, not so fast. Poor little URFO did not fare so well. He was left behind and no one knew it. "Help!" yelled poor little URFO. "I'm still inside Mr. P's body. Hello, anyone?" But no one heard him. Oh, and I mentioned earlier that I would tell you why he got the name URFO. It stands for Unintended Retention of a Foreign Object, URFO. Sounds like some kind of alien encounter, doesn't it? Well, actually, it is an alien encounter. A sponge is an alien object not supposed to live inside a human body. Well, meantime, years went by, and poor URFO was becoming encased in omentum and intestines and all kinds of fibrous reactionary gunk. With his last breath, URFO wondered out loud, what can I do to get Mr. P's attention? Oh, I know. How about some abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, anorexia, and weight loss? Soon Mr. P began to feel URFO's signals, so he went to his doctor. Not sure what's going on here. Are you stressed? Any changes in your eating habits? Old age? All in your head? URFO continued sending signals for the next few months and created a palpable mass. "Ha!" said URFO. "They won't miss this." Mr. P returned to his doctor once again, proving his painful symptoms with this lump that he could clearly feel with his hands. The doctor ordered a scan of the suspicious lump. The CAT scan showed a round, well-defined soft tissue mass containing an internal high-density area. "Could be a tumor," announced the doctor. "Tumor schmoomer," yelled URFO, and he exploded into an internal infection-y mess. Now someone will take action. Well, the short edition is Mr. P had to have a second surgery to remove poor URFO and free him from his life as an alien object. So why am I telling you this fractured fairy tale? Well, a few weeks ago, the Joint Commission issued an alert on unintended retention of foreign objects, warning hospitals and surgery centers to address the problem. The Joint Commission said hospitals and ambulatory care centers must improve their counting procedures and other safeguards to reduce the number of objects left inside patients after a wound closure. The Joint Commission is the agency that accredits and qualifies most American hospitals. We've talked about them on this program before. Well, according to the Joint Commission's report, retained surgical sponges were the most frequently reported sentinel event in 2012. Although other goodies have also been known to get left behind: needles, instruments, gloves, and so on. This means that an instrument or sponge left in a patient after surgery is not necessarily a rare medical error and continues to be a patient safety and surgical quality issue. Surgical sponges are the most common foreign materials retained, particularly in the abdominal cavity, because of their frequent usage and small size. Now you're probably thinking of the big pink bathroom sponge or a kitchen sponge. Surgical sponges are small, like a small bandage. A blood-soaked sponge in an abdomen can be difficult to distinguish from just plain old blood. Those especially at risk are patients who are obese, have emergency surgery, or have unplanned changes to their originally planned procedure. To avoid this unintentional retention of a foreign object, 4 separate counts are recommended. First, when instruments and sponges are first unpacked and set up. A second, before the beginning of the surgical procedure. A third, as closure begins. And a final count during final skin closure. So it's easy to see that in an emergency situation, all of this counting just might not happen. Or when abnormal bleeding occurs, the staff may just start grabbing sponges without counting them. So how are these missing sponges found? In some cases, a lost sponge may be discovered by accident during an X-ray or during an unrelated surgical procedure. Surgical sponges are made of cotton. They adhere well and can become encapsulated, like what happened to our poor little URFO. This explains why patients may remain without symptoms for a long time as the body tries to react to the foreign object. The most common symptoms are pain, a palpable mass, vomiting, weight loss, diarrhea, and abdominal distension. A New York Times article published in September of 2012 illustrates the adverse effects of an URFO. 4 years after having a hysterectomy, a woman in Kentucky began to experience severe abdominal pain. A CT scan revealed a surgical sponge left behind by the surgical team that had performed the hysterectomy. Upon surgical exploration, the retained sponge was found to have caused a serious infection which required bowel resection. The patient suffered from severe health issues, anxiety, depression, disability, and social isolation. The average total cost of care related to an URFO is about $166,000. These unintended retention of foreign objects used to be called never events. And for good reason. This should never happen. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services stopped reimbursing healthcare facilities for post-operative complications related to retained surgical instruments in 2008. Well, that sounds like a good thing, right? Why would a hospital get paid for making a mistake? But apparently, Medicare isn't helping either. Recently, the agency that funds Medicare announced plans to stop publicly reporting on objects left in by hospitals serving Medicare beneficiaries. Wow, in typical fashion, that sounds like a mess. Voluntary reporting? Hello, I'd like to voluntarily report that I left a surgical retractor inside my patient. Now that is a fairy tale. So what can you do? Research your hospital prior to making plans for any kind of surgery. Specifically ask about their unintended retention of foreign object rates. How do they manage the counting of sponges? Is it a manual count? Do they have a barcoding system to make sure all supplies are accounted for and that nothing's left inside you? I have resources on the website under the Free Stuff tab that lists hospital rating groups like leapfroggroup.org. Just visit our site, speakupandstayalive.com. Because of the long delay before symptoms and complications emerge, if you have subtle complaints and questionable image findings, a lump or a mass that you can feel, and most importantly, if you've had a previous surgery, remember this segment today. Unintended retention of foreign objects. The chances are quite low that this is the problem, but definitely should be on your ask list. And so that ends my tale of URFO, the little lost sponge. And with that, let's hear some legal news you can use. Let's spend the next 2 minutes with our friends at Schraff & King. They always have the answers. Pat, young gal sent this. I am a young person in good health. Do I really need to create a formal advance directive?
It's interesting that younger people think that they do not need this type of document, but the fact is that most of the law in this area developed around younger people in auto accidents who had very serious injuries. So everyone 18 and over should have a healthcare directive so that they have named in a healthcare power of attorney the person they want to make decisions for them. They should consider whether they wish to have a living will declaration and whether the time is right to do that. And they should consider who will receive their private medical information, so a privacy release. So anyone over 18 years of age.
Oh, Pat, thanks for taking the time to help us today. And if our listeners need more information, where can they find you?
Well, they can reach us at 440-585-1600 or at our website at www.schraffking.com.
Well, thanks for helping us today, Pat. We appreciate your wisdom.
You're welcome.
If you have not taken care of your advance directives, get it done today. Schraff & King. They're conveniently located on Som Center Road in Willoughby Hills, just south of Route 6. Or you can always visit them online at schraffking.com. With all of the changes being made within the healthcare world today, not only is it confusing, but it is increasingly more expensive, and doctors and their practices may not be able to see all of the newly insured patients. That's why I always encourage our listeners to take care of themselves now in order to avoid a potential hospital stay. Listen as I spend the next 2 minutes with my friend, Dr. Tad Roediger of Roediger Chiropractic. He's got ways to keep us well. Well, Dr. Roediger, tell us, how can your chiropractic services help keep us well, safe, and out of the hospital?
That's a great question. I'd rather see somebody once a month, making sure that their body, their joints, and then most importantly, their nervous system works as close to 100% as possible so that their body can work and function and their nervous system can be 100%. And so checking somebody once every 3 or 4 weeks to make sure that they stay healthy, that they stay good. I had back surgery in 1986. Of all the things I wish I could undo in my life, I wish I could not have the back surgery and tried chiropractic first. And so I would love to have people come in first. We do have some patients that say, I just need my once a month or once every 3 week care, and we do that for them. And that's fantastic. It's so great to see somebody come in and say, oh, Pat, how do you feel today? I feel fantastic. Great, let me check you out. And usually we'll end up adjusting a handful of spots because using the activator method doesn't have to hurt. Vertebrae can get out of alignment and don't have to pinch nerves. Remember, you can feel good, but you can still be out of alignment. And that's where I really think that the regular checkups once a month or so helps keep people really functioning at their best.
I encourage you to visit Dr. Roediger for a consultation. Call him for an appointment at 440-285-0756. Dr. Roediger is located in Chardon, Ohio at the Village Station, 401 South Street, just 1/2 mile south of downtown Chardon off of Route 44. Or you can always call him at 440-285-0576.
This segment is brought to you by Generation America, the smart and traditional 50-plus membership organization, and they provide a full range of benefits to members. If you're looking for quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.
You're enjoying Speak Up and Stay Alive Patient Safety Radio. I am your hostess, Pat Rullo, always on the lookout for a guest who not only talks about making a difference, but actually gets out there and does it. And I cannot imagine a more difficult environment to make a difference than that of the political scene. And so when I met today's guest, I knew I had to get him in here to share his expertise with us today, especially regarding smart meters. He is Matt Lynch. He represents the 76th Ohio House District, which includes most of Geauga and northern Portage counties. He is a practicing attorney and political conservative, and he is here today to help us understand the current state of affairs when it comes to smart meters in Ohio. So welcome to the studio, Matt.
Hi, Pat. Great to be here.
I met you this summer, and I don't know if you remember when I extended my hand to say hello to you. Do you know what your response was to me?
I don't remember, actually.
You said, Jerry the Germ.
Oh, yes. I probably did. That's right.
Was that a subtle way to say you didn't want to shake my hand?
Well, you're supposed to tap elbows now or something. It's the new healthy way to meet, I guess.
Absolutely. I thought that was awesome. So when you shake hands with all of your fans, do you think of Jerry the Germ?
I do all the time. In fact, whenever I'm in Columbus, particularly because I'm shaking hands with politicians, and they have really dirty hands.
I'm sure.
I carry a pen sprayer in my pocket, and I spray my hands all the time. In fact, some of my fellow representatives laugh when they see me pull that out. But, I do worry about it.
Absolutely. You stand for something, right?
Absolutely.
Clean hands.
I stand against germs.
You and Jerry are on opposite sides, huh? But maybe you should meet his mom, Josephina Germophobia.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to meet her, actually.
I'll have to introduce you. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, that might be the most important question we answer here today.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
All right. Seriously. The reason why I asked you to visit with us is because you are writing a bill regarding, or you already have written a bill regarding smart meters, the wireless utility meters that are being forced upon us. So, and I've talked about this on our show many times lately, and I want to ask you first, maybe tell us how you got involved with that.
Well,
topic.
it's really a learning process for me. In fact, I'm always so grateful because citizens in community groups all across my district, they get involved in issues, whether it's health issues or liberty issues or any kind of issues. They educate me. And I think it was about a year ago I first started hearing about smart meters, and I wasn't exactly sure what they were, but it is the new wave of technology in electronic energy meters. And these meters are much more than just your old-fashioned dial meter reading how much gas you happen to be using, for instance. These are really small computers. And these computers will communicate with the utility company, as you might expect, but they'll also communicate with your household appliances. And they'll talk to each other. And because they're smart, don't you know, they will tell you when you're not so smart. They will tell you not only how much energy is being used, but how much energy you should use. If you go on the utility company's websites, they brag about how smart these meters are, and frankly, how much smarter they are than you as the homeowner. So it really creates a situation where they're going to be peering into your private life. I just had a new dishwasher installed, and I asked the installer about the computer in there. He said, oh, yes, there's a communication device in here. And of course, I directed the installer to take it out, and he thought I was a little crazy. It's built into the system that appliance and dishwasher is designed to communicate with these smart meters. It hasn't happened yet because I don't have a smart meter, and I'm not going to have a smart meter, and I may be washing my dishes by hand, but this is the wave of the future, to have all of your appliances communicate with the utility company. And of course, it's for your own good. Always be careful. The government is here and they're here to help. I'm
going to grab this tape that I just gave you. It's called Take Back Your Power. When you just mentioned your dishwasher, the quote on the back from David Petraeus, the former director, was he the CIA? In an article, Wired, March 2012, he says, and there's a quote here, "We'll spy on you through your dishwasher." Yeah,
I hadn't heard that. I remember when he made the quote about being able to know what's going on in your home through the appliances. So it's very real. It's not silliness. It's not paranoia, and it is coming. And in many other states, it's already arrived. In other states, they're already sending letters to people, and they say, "Gee, Pat, your utility usage is high compared to your neighbors, and you have good neighbors, but you're not such a good neighbor if you're going to be using so much energy. So you perhaps should dial it back." And the day will come when the letter will say, "We'll dial it back for you." Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And data mining, the state of California has already admitted, I read articles about it already, quotes about it, where they happily expose that, yes, we are selling your information to third parties. Hooray. So we're talking about the privacy side of it. Right. There's a whole other side. There's many other sides. And my side, how I came into it, and it really doesn't matter how you get into this, you need to get into it, is the health side, because these
devices are emitting radiation 24/7, despite the fact that they'll say that, oh, it only sends the signal once an hour, twice an hour. Not so.
And of course, it's a two-way signal. So there may be a signal back and forth from a particular appliance in your home, as well as a signal back to the utility company. So there's a lot going on there in terms of communication. And you're right, there is a lot of evidence now that there are health risks associated with being exposed to the radiation that is involved in that wireless communication.
Right. And to me, as a manufacturer, I think in any other industry, it's their job, the manufacturer's job, to say, yes, this is safe. It's not the consumer's job to prove that it is not safe.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, we have to make sure that the public's protected, that their liberty is protected and their health is protected.
Right.
And at the very least, we have to be able to say to the public, you don't have to do this if you don't want to.
Right.
And that's really what my smart meter bill is all about.
Okay.
It's simply making smart meters optional rather than mandatory.
So let's talk about that. What exactly will your bill do for us? Has it been introduced?
The bill on the House side has not been introduced. On the Senate side, a sister bill, a mirror bill, has been introduced by Senator Jordan. The smart meter bill in the House probably will be introduced next week and will be assigned, no doubt, to the Public Utilities Committee. And then we'll go through the committee process. And when that occurs, we will be looking for citizens and others, such as yourself, and we've talked about this before, to come to Columbus and tell the story of the dangers associated with smart meters, not only the dangers to liberty, but the dangers to health.
All right. So on your bill, what does it do for us exactly?
I should give a little history here, perhaps. When I first started to look at this, I contacted the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. And I had the director come see me, and we had a very pleasant conversation about smart meters. And I expressed my concerns, and he assured me that I should not have these concerns.
I'm sure he did.
And further, that this was a good thing, that we would make the grid more efficient and smarter. And so we really wanted to promote the use of these meters. And currently, there really is no regulation around these meters. Now, partly in response to my concerns, and I think also in Senator Jordan's bill, the PUCO then came out with regulations earlier this year in which they sort of reached what they thought was a compromise, which was that they would actually charge people if they refused a smart meter. Initially a $60 charge, then later, we actually don't know how much the charge would be because it would be related to the added cost, the claimed added cost of not using a smart meter. And we should distinguish, perhaps, Pat, these so-called smart meters, which really are small computers, from the old remote meter reading device. Many folks have a small device on their meters that simply allows the meter reader to walk by or even drive by and pick up a signal that says, well, this is how much gas or electric is being used. That's a one-way communication. That's a very simple device. We might talk about if there are some health issues even related to that. But it's not invasion of your liberty. It's not communicating with your appliances. These smart meters are just a different animal altogether because they will give a lot of information to the utility company. And of course, some would say, well, who cares if that information goes to the utility company? But if you don't believe that information ends up in a government computer someplace, then I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn.
Yes. You're talking about the one-way meters versus the two-way meters,
Yes.
and they're saying that the one-way meter, like the Dominion gas meter supposedly, is the one-way meter. However, it is a fact that it is continuously emitting RF radiation all over people and their homes. So I would like to see the bill not just address the privacy side of it, but not to say just a two-way communication device, but at any digital meter that sends out radiation frequency needs to be looked at here.
Yes, I think that's a legitimate point. The bill reads as it does in part because Senator Jordan and I were working together to try to push this bill in both the House and the Senate, and folks need to understand that any new law has to go through both houses. So by having similar bills in both houses, it gives us an opportunity to move it faster. But we're both open to amendments, and I think an amendment such as you suggest is an appropriate one. That is to broaden the ability to reject a particular kind of meter, even if it's not a so-called smart meter, but still is an electronic meter.
Exactly. I mean, to be harmed and then have to pay for it in an opt-out, I mean, that's almost extortion to say, you know what, we've got your power. Now, if you want it, you don't want it to hurt you, you have to pay for it. What world are we in? That's
right. And as you know, there are those that are more sensitive to this kind of radiation than others. And so we want to recognize that. And if someone has a particular sensitivity, they should be able to escape the harm by opting out without any added burden and no added cost.
And that's really interesting that you say that, because I was of the same belief that, oh yeah, there's like a 3 to 5% of people are sensitive. In that movie, and it's very well documented, they did blood tests of people. They did lab tests, and they had 3 people standing next to a smart meter while it was emitting. 2 people didn't feel anything. One person was feeling some of the effects of it, but they did the blood analysis in all 3 of them, and it showed that all 3 reacted based on the lab work, that they were being affected by it. So some people may not feel it, but just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not harming you.
That's right. Well, you and I were talking off the air earlier about microwaves. I remember, I think it was back in the 80s or the 90s, all the talk about how the Russians were using microwaves to attack, essentially, our embassies in Europe.
Yes.
So we know that this kind of radiation, it can be harmful. And while we might be focused on powerful radiation that's used as a weapon and so forth, that doesn't mean that a low frequency level of radiation, particularly that's over a long period of time, when I think about my own home that has 2 wireless phones, actually 2 cell phones, but actually has 4 other phones that are all wireless. We have whole house wireless internet. We have the microwave. We have an awful lot going on when you start to think about it. And I wish we could visualize what our homes look like in that context. If we could see a little yellow or red line or beam crossing the room every time there was an emission of a radio wave or a microwave, we'd be pretty scared, I think.
I had someone come to my home with 3 different meters, and we did the low frequency, we did the dirty electricity, we did the Wi-Fi, the wireless. And let me tell you, everything in my house is unplugged because it was off the chart.
Yeah,
and here I am sitting working for years and years, just being bathed in all of this. And now you're going to, against my will, plop this thing, behind my bed out on the outside wall.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say it, because my meter is also on the wall just the opposite side of the headboard of my bed.
Well, then you need to reconfigure your sleeping space.
Well, I'm not getting a smart meter.
Well, all right, so let's talk about that. How do we not get a smart meter? Because I've watched and read many horrible stories where people are having their power shut off. The attendants come and cut down chain link fences. So let's say right here in Ohio, I don't want the electric or the gas or the water smart meter. They come to my house, say, I don't want it. Well, do I have that right? Do I have that legal right to say no?
Yes, there's probably 3 things that people should focus on. Number one, they want to make sure their own house is safe by informing the utility companies they do not want a smart meter. Now, they're supposed to get a letter. It's usually a letter that starts out by saying, congratulations.
Good news, sucker.
But in fact, just because it says good news, they should probably read the fine print. And when they get that kind of notice, they should immediately call the 800 number they give and tell the folks they do not want a smart meter. But they should also send something in writing saying they don't want a smart meter. And I have also told folks that it is not unwise to take a copy of that letter and go tape it to the outside of their meter, because
I've done that.
you go to work in the morning and you come home at night, there may be a meter has been put on, you don't even know it. So you want to do all of that to protect yourself personally. Second thing they can do is take action to support Chris Jordan's bill in the Senate and my bill in the House to allow citizens in Ohio to opt out of having a smart meter at all with no cost. That means contacting the Public Utilities Committee in the House and the Senate and telling them to have hearings on the bills and ultimately to vote the bills out. And then, as we were just talking before we went on the air, there is activity in Congress, and perhaps you could tell me more about that, because you're up to date on that, I know.
Right now, what did I just find out? The Smart Grid Advancement Act of 2013. Yeah, that would actually might just blow your and Jordan's bills right out of the water.
We can pass this law in Ohio to protect our citizens, but if the feds override that with the federal legislation, then it won't make any difference.
Right, I have it right here. July 11th, 2013, Mr. McNerney and Mr. Cartwright introduced the following bill. And basically what it does is it mandates that all utilities within the United States comply with this, meaning that even utilities that currently do not have a smart grid will have to incorporate that, and that we basically now won't even be able to opt out.
That's exactly right. And when that happens, I'm afraid we'll have folks not only having their health deteriorate, but their liberty evaporate.
What do we do about this? We can't just idly sit by. I mean, I understand you say you call the PUCO, support your bill. Do we really have a voice, or are we just kidding ourselves?
Well, we have a voice, but it is a large battle. It's the battle to protect our health involves smart meters, It involves running our own lives, good, healthy lives. It involves fighting national health care like Obamacare, which is going to diminish our health. So this is a big problem, and it is to be fought on a lot of levels. And frankly, those legislators like myself that are interested in protecting liberty and protecting health, we depend, as I said, upon individuals to keep us informed and to put on the pressure. If folks don't make the phones ring, if folks don't send the emails, if folks don't take the time to come down to Columbus to testify, then our efforts to protect you will fail. And we will be faced with these things. And, 10 years from now, maybe not even 10 years from now, we'll be talking about all the people that have brain tumors and other health ailments, either wondering why or perhaps being able to identify that, well, all this radiation has done its bad work.
Right. Try to say you're sorry way long after the fact. Talk about the Fourth Amendment. Doesn't that give us the right to prevent unlawful search and seizure?
Yes.
Isn't that something that we can talk about, or does that not matter anymore?
Well, it's interesting when you talk about things like smart meters and unlawful search and seizure. Some people will welcome these. This bill that I have, for instance, allows you to opt out, but you can opt in. If you decide that you want a smart meter, you're allowed to have them. And because these things are presented as a way to help the environment, I mean, they don't call them attack meters, they call them smart meters.
Exactly.
And so there's a real effort to sell this to the American people, and that's often successful. So many people will welcome this, and many people will welcome the government running their lives. We know this to be the case.
And to me, that's only because people just don't fully understand. And there's a larger picture here. There's a larger monster that's kind of lurking here that is Agenda 21. Can we talk about that?
Sure. Well, Agenda 21 is something that the UN passed decades ago, actually, which was a plan, an international plan to try to make things more efficient. You might say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, the efficiency involves manipulating people closer to the cities by getting them out of their cars and on bikes or trains, and otherwise forcing folks to change their lives in a way that conforms to some national or international planner's idea of what our lifestyle should be. Now, in some ways, that sounds like a utopia, but in this country, we believe in liberty. The most basic part of liberty is the ability to choose for yourself. And in this country, we need to choose. Sometimes we choose and it harms us, and we learn from that and move on. Sometimes we choose just because we have a different preference. And the idea that any national or international body is going to decide how we should live, whether it's a smart meter or how we run our homes or our lives or our businesses or our health care, these are all things that really fly in the face of liberty, and it's not for me.
Not at all. In fact, I just finished reading this book, Behind the Green Mask.
Yes, I've read it.
Excellent book that just outlines everything that's happening with Agenda 21. And
some people roll their eyes when they hear the term Agenda 21. Some folks talk about environmental planning and other phrases that and get away from the Agenda 21. But the Agenda 21 concept is that you're going to use environmental issues sort of as the tip of the spear in manipulating society is very, very much in play, and it's happening every day, and many folks don't even understand that it's happening to them.
Absolutely. All you have to do is look around. If something seems weird, it's probably Agenda 21. That's how I kind of feel about it. I mean, it's not an environmental movement.
No.
It's very much a political movement meant to manipulate and control, but to cover it up by pretty words like everybody wants something sustainable and
sustainable development.
Revitalization. That's right. Wow, I want that.
That's
I want to be revitalized.
That's
and
right.
Smart this and green that. We know that those are positive words.
Positive words, but if they're all words designed to seduce you into giving up your liberty, then it's certainly not positive for our country.
There is an agenda behind all of that. So several states have passed resolutions or state laws actually stopping the spread of Agenda 21, yeah?
Well, there have been some states that have tried to pass those kinds of resolutions, and we looked at that in Ohio as well. I've looked at a number of so-called anti-Agenda 21 bills and resolutions. The problem with it is that it's not so clearly identifiable. The smart meters do not come with an Agenda 21 approval sticker on it. You know, so you can't pass a law that says don't do anything that implements Agenda 21 because it's so imprecise. So when you begin to try to get your hands around that, it really creates difficulty as a legislator trying to pass a bill. Now, I can do something about smart meters because it's specific. Part of the Agenda 21 Sustainable Development movement is this move to alternative transportation, bicycles, for instance.
Right.
And you see millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent on bike paths all over
and no
Northeast
one on them.
Ohio. That's right. I remember when they talked about the first bike path out towards the Chagrin Valley, they argued that it was going to be safer for people on bicycles. Would prevent horrible accidents. And so I inquired as to how many horrible accidents there had been. Well, there hadn't been one in 10 years. So I don't know how many you get fewer than zero. But of course, if you build a bike path and you start to have hundreds of people using it, you're going to start having some accidents. But if someone wants a bike path in their community, I also believe in liberty. If someone wants to spend the money, their tax dollars, to put a bike path from Park A to Park B, they have the right to do that. As much as I might say if I'm in that community, I might say, well, it's unnecessary, it's expensive, whatever. But if that community says, well, we like the idea, well, they have the right to do it. So I'm not going to pass a bill down in Columbus that says no bike paths in Ohio.
That's true, but if we understand that those bike paths stand for what's coming down the pike, where we've got these transit villages where people no longer have their cars and they're going to need the bike paths because everything you need is going to be around Chardon Square or whatever. You don't need to go anywhere. Your food's going to be grown around the corner. You go upstairs to live, you work downstairs. Everybody's going to look the same. If we know that these
wear black pajamas.
Okay.
And ride bicycles.
Exactly.
I think they did that in China for a while.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, right, of course.
We know what it means.
And yet, in places like Geauga County, anywhere northeast Ohio, the idea that you're going to ride your bike anywhere in February is ridiculous, obviously. There's some practical restrictions on all this. But again, we can't get to a point where we restrict communities that want to do these things. We just have to educate our public officials and our citizens to know that if they're moving in the direction of, quote, sustainable development as a background for controlling the population, then that is a bad thing.
I can't remember how many counties in the state of Ohio, 7, that have signed on to Agenda 20. So if you actually have to sign on to it to agree that you're going to embrace that planning and that zoning, then that's what I'm asking you. How can we make sure that maybe what city or town that we live in does not?
Well, I was a township trustee, and we had our meetings every 2 weeks. And if we had 10 people show up at a meeting, that would be a big deal. People do have to be engaged. They have to understand these issues, and then they have to go to their town hall meetings, which is actually the most direct place to have influence. But certainly they have to engage their legislators in Columbus and in Washington and be wary of these things. If it sounds too good, it probably is.
All right, we can fuss with this all day and go round and round. So our listeners are listening right now. What can they do to help you? What is the protocol?
Absolutely. They can contact my office. The best thing to do is really go to the Ohio House of Representatives website, or then you can click on my name and you can get direct contact by email or phone to my office in Columbus. Similarly, Senator Jordan's office in the Ohio Senate. If you ask, we will put you on a list to inform you when these bills are coming up for hearings, and then you can attend the hearing. We've had people come to hearings, wearing T-shirts or holding signs or whatever to make sure that the presence in support or in opposition of an issue is known. And so you don't actually have to come necessarily and get up and testify, although, Pat, you told me you would.
I will.
But others may just want to come and support you while you do that. So all of that is very helpful and needed if we're going to get this out of committee and onto the floor and in law in Ohio.
All right. Matt Lynch, everyone. Call him, email him, sit on his back porch. We need to make it.
Don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Because I have 2 dogs, and my wife is armed.
Oh, no. Matt, thank you for spending the time to help us sort through this crazy topic.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, now, no one move, because I strongly encourage you to write down the contact information I'm about to give you for Matt Lynch and Senator Chris Jordan and the Public Utility Commission of Ohio. So grab a pen and paper right now. Call them and tell them that you are against the mandatory and illegal forcing of smart meters. It's bad enough to be spied on, but to wantonly harm our health in a sneaky and subversive manner is reprehensible, and we should not tolerate it. However, it is clear that time is of the essence. If we don't speak up right now, it's going to be too late. Remember the new bill I talked about with Matt It's called the Smart Grid Advancement Act of 2013, Bill number 2685, that was introduced this past summer, July 11th, 2013, that in essence will require all states to comply, that all utilities will have to convert, and takes away our rights to sue the utility companies. This is a bill to mimic the Telecom Act that forbids us to take legal action should we become sick or die due to cell phone towers and antennas. I mean, if smart meters were not dangerous to our health, why in the world would anyone introduce a bill that forbids us from recourse? So, if you're ready, I have quite a few numbers for you to write down. And if you have internet access, you'll find these on our website, speakupandstayalive.com. All right, so get your pens, pencils, papers, because here we go. All right, the first, write down Matt Lynch, and his phone number is area code 614-644-5088. That's 614-644-5088. You can email him at rep, that's REP 76, rep 76 at ohiohouse.gov, G-O-V, rep 76 at ohiohouse.gov. He also has a website. It's easy. It's www.mattlynch.com, MATTLYNCH.com, mattlynch.com. Or you can go to the Ohio House website. That one is www.ohiohouse.gov/Matt-Lynch. And again, that's going to be on my website, speakupandstayalive.com. So simply call him and leave a message. Give him your name and your contact information so he knows that you're a real person, and tell him that you heard him on this radio show and that you too oppose smart meters, Agenda 21, and ask him to oppose H.R. 2685. That's the bill we talked about earlier. Tell him that you support his smart meter bill and ask what else you can do to help and for him to keep you posted. Next, I'd call Senator Chris Jordan. We spoke about him on the show as well. He's got the other bill along with Matt on the smart meters. His phone number is 614-466-8086. 614-466-8086. And you can go to his webpage, www.ohiosenate.gov/Jordan, Jordan, ohiosenate.gov/Jordan. All right, so give him your name, your contact information, that you heard him on this radio show, that you oppose the smart meters, Agenda 21, and that you oppose and that he should oppose H.R. 2685. And now I encourage you to contact the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. Tell them that you oppose smart meters. Give them your name and address and tell them that you do not want a smart meter on your location either. Their number, 800-686-7826. That's 800-686-7826. And last, for now, obviously there's much more you can do, but you can track the activities of Congress. You can track the bills and the resolutions, their voting records, and even state legislation. We should at least keep a watchful eye on them. You can track by state, and you can be put on an email list where you will receive weekly updates. I did that myself. And that's an easy website. It's www.govtrack.us. govtrack.us. Well, I hope you take all of this to heart. I typically am not a political advocate, but when something of this magnitude that has the teeth to literally affect mankind, I am now burdened with the responsibility to share it and try to do something about it. And now I've burdened you with the same duty. If you have children or grandchildren, forget about buying useless holiday presents. Spend your time and effort to make a difference in their future. Call or email these people right now, or at least right after the show. And I personally thank you for that. And because of the extreme importance of this topic today, we don't have time to play our usual weekly game, but never fear. Next week, Matt Lynch will be back with us once again to play shocking news from around the world, the Agenda 21 edition, Behind the Green Mask. and that promises to more than take the place of today's missing game. But stay put. We're not done with you yet.
Know you've been a good friend, and that's through the thick and thin, and I know it's never gonna end, 'cause you've been a good friend.
Did you know that all home care is not the same? When it comes to aging in place, most seniors want to stay in their own home as long as possible, and in-home care can help them live safely and comfortably. But there are many types of home care providers that provide a variety of services. Before you select an individual or organization to provide care for a loved one, make sure you research providers and ask the right questions. So to help with that, listen as I introduce my friends Jack and Bonnie Warren from Comfort Keepers, serving Ashtabula, Lake, Geauga, Lorain, and Medina counties. Jack, tell us, how is Comfort Keepers different than other home care services?
One of the things that we do is match up clients' needs with caregiver skill sets. And if a caregiver comes to us who has raised a family, knows how to make a bed, knows how to cook, knows how to clean, and those fit right into the niche of what you need in your home, what a great fit. If your needs are more along the personal care lines, we need help with toileting, bathing, incontinence care, then I have a different skill set from the caregiver, and I make a different assignment in that direction. So it's important for us to determine what the client's needs are and then determine which caregivers are well suited for those needs.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Jack. We look forward to your weekly advice.
Thanks, Pat.
I encourage you to call my friends right here in the Cleveland area, Jack and Bonnie Warren. For more information or to schedule a free in-home consultation, call them toll-free, 866-942-1960. That's 866-942-1960. Or you can visit them online at comfortkeepers.com. And be sure to let them know that I sent you. Comfort Keepers, keeping the comforts of home.
We were surprised when Dad brought up hospice care. I thought you called when you were all out of options, but Hospice of the Western Reserve has been helping care for Dad for some time now. I'm so glad we called when we did. Their support has given us quality time I'll remember forever.
With Hospice of the Western Reserve, you can choose when, where, and how you receive care. Discover why the hospice of choice is Hospice of the Western Reserve at hospiceofchoice.org.
On this show, we talk about the need for a patient advocate during every healthcare or hospital encounter. But advocacy also includes whom you rely on when it comes to health insurance. Listen while I spend the next 2 minutes with Chris Alberta, the Medicare supplement partner with Generation America, as we discuss the importance of choice. Chris, how are you and Generation America different when it comes to choosing a Medicare supplement plan?
As opposed to looking for an opportunity to hook up with one carrier or a company with a couple of products, what they said to us was, how can we offer everybody who's a member of our organization basically a menu? Many people don't know this, is all these Medicare plans, most of them are exactly the same coverage. The only difference is the price that you pay. We work with probably upwards of about 50 different programs and carriers around the country, which is most of them. And Generation America hooked up with us and said, listen, how can we show our members every single program that's available in their zip code and then really break it down according to age and price so they never end up overpaying?
That is great to know. People need choices and they need to feel safe when they make those choices. Well, thank you for spending the time to clarify Medicare supplements with us today, Chris.
No problem, Pat.
For more information or to join, visit generationamerica.org. Well, folks, we are short on time today because our topic was so important with Matt Lynch. But before we go, I want to remind you that you are invited to my next live speaking event. I will be speaking at St. Mary's Church at 1 o'clock on Monday, November the 18th. And they are located at 401 North Street in Chardon, Ohio. It is free and you are welcome to attend. Well, today we talked about smart meters and Agenda 21, and I have to say that it is time to pay attention, folks. We are slowly and surely losing our rights, the very freedom we take for granted. I told you before, I'm not here telling you what to think, but I am here telling you to think. If you want to replay this show for yourself or for someone that you know that needs to hear this, please pass it on. Go to the RadiOh link at the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website. That's where you can also purchase the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, The Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide. And I thank all of our weekly radio sponsors and guests because thanks to them, we are here, and that helps keep you safe. And you can find their information as well on the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website. And please be sure to come back next week. Matt Lynch will be back to play shocking news from around the world, the Agenda 21 edition, Behind the Green Mask. So we're going to delve a little further into this topic next week. So be sure to gather your family around the radio next Saturday morning. Grab friends. Let everyone know about this truly informative radio program. We just love you and so appreciate your loyalty and support of this show. That is next Saturday morning, where you can find us in Cleveland, Ohio, from 7 to 8 Eastern on AM 1420 WHK. And from 9 to 10 Eastern on AM 1220 WHKW, as well as from 9 to 10 on AM 1440 WHKZ. Or you can always listen live via the internet. Check the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website to find out how. Start your week with an O. Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. And until next Saturday morning, I hope you have a healthy and a happy week. I am Pat Rullo, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
The information provided in today's broadcast is for informational purposes only and was not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem and should not be considered as medical advice. If you've missed part of today's show or just want to share the information with friends, you can listen to all of Pat's previous shows at SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Want even more information? Purchase a copy of Pat's book at SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Once again, it's SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Or you can call Pat at 440-725-5462. Until next week, remember, it's okay to ask others to wash their hands. You have to speak up and stay alive. Brought to you by Generation America, the smart and traditional 50-plus membership organization. If you're looking for quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization, Generation America. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.